What's going on, everybody? We're going to be covering chapter 1171 of One Piece. Today's chapter is called Ragnar. I'm not sure why it's called Ragnar. We get like one panel of Ragnar in this whole chapter, but whatever. Moving on, the cover request is a cat putting cat ears on Zoro. We're doing random shit, but it's better than the Yamato cover story, so I don't really care. This chapter is pretty much just yap the entire chapter, so I'm going to try and summarize it the best that I can. Hopefully, I don't miss anything, but just bear with me. Starting out this chapter, we get a conversation between Gabon, Shanks, and Ja Rule. They're basically talking about how if Harold kept continuing on, he would have destroyed Elbaf and it probably would have been over. They couldn't have stopped them on their own because he just kept regenerating. There was nothing they could do. They're actually super glad that Loki was there, and they're just in shock about how powerful his devil fruit ability is. No one had any idea it was going to be that powerful, but basically, if Loki wasn't there, they were fucked. Moving on, we get a little solo panel of Shanks, and he's having some flashbacks in his mind. He's having a flashback of when he was talking to Harold when they were in Mary Joie, when Harold was a good guy. He's having another little flashback of when Garling was talking to him when he went up to Mary Joie. Garling is telling him, you must have endured a miserable life as a pirate. And Shanks is basically having like a panic attack. He's like grabbing the mark on his arm and he's, like hunched over, telling Gabon, why did Harold have to die? He was such a pure soul. He's blaming himself for not getting there in time. And I think it's just like Shanks is a really good guy. He knew that Harold was a pure soul. He wanted just the best for Elbaf and he got taken advantage of. So it's kind of a cool moment. Okay, then we're cutting away to Mary Joie, and we're getting some conversation between Emu and the Gorosei. This entire conversation, Emu's huffing and puffing. It's just basically what the fuck Emu does when something doesn't go his way. He's huffing and puffing because Oda can't show his fucking face for some reason. Emu is essentially shocked that anything could have killed Harold because of how strong Harold was, and that's what I'm trying to figure out because Harold was stronger than Zebek. So it's like Loki just obliterated someone stronger than Zebek. So even Emu's like, what the fuck? Emu is like, is something unforeseen lurking on Elbaf? Does Emu not know that they have a special devil fruit? Does Emu not know that Ragnar exists? Does Emu not know that Loki exists? I don't. The Gorosei are talking about how they should send more people through the Abyss pentagram that Harold created, and Emu's like, no, they're just gonna get fucked there. Like, if Harold lost, no one else is winning. No one else is winning because they're all ass. They're all bums. Harold is actually strong. The rest of these God Knights fucking suck. Basically, we get just a bunch more yap about how Harold was the perfect in to to Elbaf for the world government because of how gullible he was, how nice he was. This was an unprecedented opportunity to get someone who wasn't just a blood, you just a savage battle giant. Harold actually wanted to, fix Elbaf, and that came with letting the world government in. Emu continues on, and he says that Elbaf is part of the D clan, so because of that, they were never going to get Elbaf, which I don't know how it took 800 years to get there. Maybe because he saw how easy Harold was and it still didn't work. So he's like, you know what? If getting Harold didn't work, we're just not getting Elbaf, which because Elbaf is part of the D, which Elbaf was on the side of Joy Boy in the Void Century, so it's just a nation that is aligned with the good of the world. So they're just not compatible with the world government. Even though we've only seen one D-Clan member, and that's Saul, who's from the South Blue. Moving on, we cut over to Loki, who's talking to Ja Rule, Shanks, and Gabon. They're all having a conversation in the throne room. They're basically talking about why they're not telling Elbaf what happened. Ja Rule's like, Harold's last request was to tell Elbaf what happened, and Loki's like, I'm not doing it. Don't speak a word of what happened here today because I don't want to fuck up Harold's legacy, basically, which is what I thought. That was the only reason I could think of why they didn't tell Elbaf what happened. So that's what happened. It's good to finally know that. And, Loki's a really good guy. He cares a lot about Harold. But then he basically says he's going to set out to sea. He sets out to sea to go fucking take down the world government because they're pieces of shit and they basically killed Harold. We know that he doesn't complete that goal. For some reason, he gets locked up. We assume that's because Shanks defeated him for some reason and then chained him up. But my guess what happened is Shanks met Loki at the sea and told him to wait on trying to take down the government because we got to wait for Luffy to awaken Gear 5. So he probably told Loki, go back to Elbaf, fucking chain yourself there, sit down and wait until this guy comes who's the actual Dawn of the world. And here we have Luffy coming to Elbaf, and now Loki's out of his chains. I think the reason Loki calls Shanks a coward is because Shanks didn't want to just fight the government right then and there. He's calling him a coward because we have to wait for Luffy to come along, essentially. And Loki just wants to take him down, which I understand. Moving on from that, we're finally cutting back to the present, and we're essentially just getting a, Haruden and Loki coming to an understanding of what happened. Harden is finally understanding, what actually happened. He's redeeming Loki. He's finally understanding what happened that day. And at this point, they're just like, we're going up to the Sun Realm to go fuck these guys up. Everyone's ready to go. Harden frees Loki, and Harden says, let's make a stand together. It's actually pretty cool. I really hope Harden actually gets some power ups because Loki is on another level and Harden is a bum. So it's like, dude, they're saying make a stand together. It's like, Loki is gonna just put in the work. Harden, you sit to the side and just chill. Luffy is very happy that Loki has been freed finally. And as soon as Loki gets free, one of the Draugrs falls down from the Sun Realm, one of Killingham's Draugrs, and it crashes to the ground, and we get this big ass panel of the Draugr like roaring at them, whatever. Everyone else just goes on ahead, and they're going to the gondola boat system that goes up on the chains, whatever. Everyone else is just going up to the top. We have Loki and Luffy staying behind to fight this thing. And in the leaks, it was saying that Loki said that he would just fly up. He's saying that he's going to just jump up. So I don't know if Loki can fly necessarily. That might have just been some bullshit, but yeah. Moving on, we get a little panel of Chopper and Gabon together. They're yapping towards each other, and Chopper's trying to take care of him, but Gabon says he wants to go back up because his son's up there and he wants to take care of him. So then Sanji comes from like the gondola system, and he comes and he picks Chopper and Gabon up, and they're like, he's skywalking up towards the Sun Realm. So I guess everybody's coming along up to the Sun Realm. But we finally get to see Loki in action. Luffy's like on his shoulder just chilling. Loki goes in for a big ass hammer swing against the Draugr and hits it with a Nelf Helm attack, named attack, which freezes the Draugr. And Loki says, all right, let's show him your powers, Ragnar. We're making the assumption here that Ragnar has frost powers. I don't know necessarily why the squirrel has frost powers, but it's saying, let's show him your powers. It's using Ragnar. We can assume that it has frost powers. Well, I guess what we can also assume is that the lightning powers are coming from Loki, which Oda did say that Nidhogg was a lightning dragon. So it makes sense that Loki would have the lightning powers himself and that Ragnar would have some other type of powers. I did not assume it to be frost powers of anything, but that's pretty much the whole chapter. I mean, it's just a lot of yap this chapter. Not much else happens. I think next chapter we're actually going to get some insane shit. It might still be set up next chapter because no one has even made it up to the heaven realm or to the sun realm. So I think next chapter we might get to the sun realm. We might get some panels, of Gunko Emu up in the heaven realm or the sun realm. We could see how the other Straw Hats are doing, but I think we're just going to get another update next chapter, and then we're finally going to get to the fighting in 1173. But if you guys enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. See ya.